Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm gonna show you how I make my famous mushroom meatballs. So you may think, why is she stuffing meatballs with mushrooms instead of the usual things like eggs? Sometimes we want to look for healthier version of protein, and that healthier version, in this case, I'm choosing mushrooms. Mushrooms are good source of protein and fibers, and also very good for antioxidants. That's why I'm choosing this. So don't wonder anymore why I'm choosing this. And of course, to begin with, I'm just gonna have my meat. It depends on for how many people you're making, so I'm not gonna give you any portions here. It depends on how big your family is or for how many people you're preparing for. So anyways, I have my meat. I just put it in the bowl, and I'm just looking for suitable spices. I mean, this recipe is all about your taste. If you want it spicy, please by all means go ahead and spice it up. If you want it not spicy, please by all means don't make it spicy. But anyway, for me, I began by salting up things. A little bit of salt is good because we want to have that good flavor to our taste. So I also have some garam masala. These spices should be your own choice. For me, I went with garam masala, of course. And I have some Laos. This is a mixture of different spices, but there's also ginger in there. And of course, I have some dried herbs. Like I said, all your choice. You can use chives, you can use whatever dried chives, dried spices you have or herbs. And I don't like measuring, so I like a typical cook doesn't measure. You just eyeball things and you know what is enough with your eye. But you can measure up things so that you don't mess up your recipe. Yes, most times people like to measure. To be on a safe side, please measure. But like I said, come on, we are real chefs, we don't measure here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add in some spring onions. This is all to pump up that flavor, make everything nice and tasty. I'm just gonna chop the spring onions in very, very fine pieces. Be careful when you're chopping with the knife you're using, so you don't chop yourself. So we're just gonna add the spring onions to our minced meat. Oh guys, of course the meat has to be minced. I forgot to mention that in the beginning. But of course you could all see that it's minced meat, though it's in a big block. So to begin mixing, I'll just choose a fork because the meat is still a big block of meat. So to just separate it, I want to go in first with a fork to avoid overhandling of food with my bare hands. It's also not very good for food hygiene. So just splitting the meat all up into fine pieces so that all the spices and everything get mixed in nicely. At this point, you're just gonna beat in the egg. That egg will help with binding everything together. We're just gonna mix in the egg so it is nicely mixed in with everything. And so we're gonna look for another egg because one egg seems to be very small for such a large chunk of meat. I missed to record that part, but I put in 2 eggs, guys. And then of course I'm gonna add in some onions. just a half an onion, but finely chopped into fine pieces, because you don't want them large pieces. They'll be sticking out in your meat when you're trying to make the meatballs. Just finely chopping the onions into fine pieces. If you have an onion slicer, go ahead and use it. If you have that machine which blends or whatever, you can also use blended onions, by the way. Even those ones add more flavor, but then you have to use less. If you blend it, then you have to use a lesser onion, maybe a half of the half, quarter. Just making sure that all the onions are finely chopped and there are no big pieces staying behind. Just we add that to our minced meat. Best part about stuffed meatballs is the flavor, guys. You don't have to miss that part, otherwise you will have a meatball which is just flat with taste. You don't want that. So this is the part which is most important. Whatever you're adding into your minced meat is what is going to give it that great taste. Then we're just gonna add in some breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs just help you with binding all the mixtures together, so that it makes your meat easy to fold or to roll into a ball. That's the roll of the breadcrumbs plus the eggs as well. Some black pepper for spicing up things. This is totally up to your taste. You can skip it if you like, but I like things a bit spicy, so I use some black pepper. Just gonna go ahead and just give it a good mix so that everything is nicely mixed in and nothing is visibly seen on its own, but everything should be uniformly mixed in. just going in with my hand because now at that moment I want everything to be nicely blended together. So you're gonna use your hand, of course, well washed. And when you're also folding the meatballs, you're gonna have to use your hands by all means. So those are my champignons, or call them mushrooms. As you can see, so I'm just gonna get some piece of meat and roll it around the champignon or the mushroom. Just fold it in nicely and just go around with meat, trying to cover the champignon into the meat. Then just go around it so it's nicely even and roll it out nicely into a nice even ball. Just repeat the same for all the champignons until the meat is finished, and then your meatballs will be ready and nice to fry. You can notice that some meatballs are smaller than the rest because also the champignons or the mushrooms are not the same size. That's looking like a nice ball. Look at that. The balls are really looking so cute. I think I did a good job rolling these balls out. Now the balls are really ready for the next step. At least they're now crying for the next step. They're like, fry me! It's gonna be Friday, babies. So of course you have your heated pan, and to it you're gonna add a little bit of, just turning on the heat right there. Just add in your margarine or frying butter, whatever you like to fry them with. Just add enough butter because these balls or babies have to be nicely fried. You don't want them to just be burning on that pan. That's why it's good to add in enough oil or butter or fat, whatever you're going to use to fry. We're gonna wait for the butter to nicely heat up to a desired temperature before we add in our meatballs. I'm showing you what kind of oil I'm using. It's good for also vegetables. It's good for cooking, frying, and baking as well. And when your oil is nicely heated up, you have to always make sure the oil is heated to the good temperature. Otherwise, that also affects your meatballs, because when the oil is not nicely heated, they'll just soak in the oil. Yeah, the oil is nicely heated up. As you can see, it makes foam. We're just gonna add our meatballs one at a time, making sure they're not sticking to each other. The pan is big enough, of course, so they will all fit. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? Meatballs are looking really nice. And make sure that you fry them at a very low flame, because if you really put the flame very high, then they'll be burning on the outside and still raw on the inside. You don't want that. So just put the flame very low so they can nicely cook. You have all the time in the world, no rush. And when they are cooked for a while on one side and you're confident enough that that side is cooked, you can turn them around, and very carefully, because you don't want to damage them or disintegrate them. So you turn them evenly around. Look at that, they're nice and brown. And if you find that the heat is too high, please go ahead and reduce it. When you're trying to turn them on the other side, please be careful that you don't go damaging them, because at this point they're not yet hard, they're still soft. Just be turning them around. This one was a bit tricky. You do want to turn on its other side. Just constantly turn them around so that they cook evenly on all sides. On a low flame, please, because we first want to make sure that all sides are cooked evenly without burning. That's why we are constantly turning them around, or trying to turn them around, making sure that we don't braise them or break them or disintegrate them. Look at that, the babies are looking so lovely. They're looking nice and brown, and they're smelling really yummy. But we still have a long way to go with them. They're not yet ready at this point, but they really smell. The aroma is so good. Look how brown they are, and they're basting so slowly, and they smell so heavenly. Look at that. Yummy yum. Now we're gonna go ahead and prepare the sauce. At that point, the meatballs were nice at that stage and cooked, but they're not final. So we're just gonna go ahead and prepare our mustard sauce. You can also use what they call what, peanut sauce, but mustard sauce tastes much better. So we just fry up the onions and tomatoes together, and once they're nicely cooked and you're satisfied that the tomatoes are soft, by of course constantly turning and tossing them in a pan. So we're just gonna add in a few other things of your choice. I leave this according to your taste, but if you like my recipe, I added in some tomato sauce just to give the sauce a bit of a body, you know, because the tomatoes alone were a bit less and dry. So I added some tomato sauce, and that gives us that nice taste and some sweetish taste, because I think they added a sugar in the tomato sauce. That's why it's a bit sweet. Also nice for this sauce. So now we're gonna go ahead and get our French mustard, and that we're gonna add it to our sauce. That's 1 spoonful, the second one, and just another small spoonful. And then we just mix everything together until it makes a good fine mixture. And then I added milk, but you can use also cooking cream if you have, but I didn't have the cream, so I used milk in that case. And then we just added our meatballs, as you can see, finally. And remember, the meatballs were already cooked, but now we're just gonna add them to the sauce and make sure that we mix them into the sauce nicely, that they're all nicely coated with that beautiful mustard sauce. But tossing them carefully around that we don't break them. So the meatballs are really looking so lovely, trust me, and they smell so heavenly. Oh, of course I added in some water because the sauce really looks a bit thicker. Add in a little bit of water. And I thought it could be more nice if the sauce is not that thick, so I added in some more water still, because as you can see the sauce was still thick. And this now looks lovely because the sauce isn't that thick anymore. Mix them up nicely. Make sure the sauce is all over the meatballs. If it means scooping up the sauce and pouring it over the meatballs, please by all means do that, because that is the sauce that is gonna give those meatballs their magical flavor. So when they're nicely mixed in and you're confident enough, you can first cover with a cover and let them steam for a few minutes. And when they're done, look, they're looking so lovely. A few minutes, I mean like about 2 to 3 minutes. Your sauce is nicely cooked and it's looking so lovely. It's smelling so nice. And at this point, your meatballs are ready to serve. You can eat these with anything, with rice, with potatoes, or just like that. Whatever you feel like. Look at that, isn't that nice? Just can't get enough of these meatballs. Just giving them their final bath in that sauce, and they'll be good to serve. Look at that. They are looking so yummy. Just for a taste, a quick taste here. Wow, look at that. Look at that. Lovely. The aroma is just amazing. They are nice and soft inside. The mushroom is nicely cooked and smells so nice. Yum.